Thank you so much. We are so excited to be
we are.
here. We are now new best friends.
Absolutely.
And it's been an exciting week for us. Not only has Girls Who Code announced and released their books, you know, our biggest problem at Girls Who Code is that we want to teach every single girl how to computer program. And in the 5 years since we've launched, we've just had to turn away girls. And that's a problem for me, right? Because we're not running a competitive coding program. We're trying to build millions of change agents who are girls. And so we released a book, which some may say, you may think this too from like your background, that it's a little old school, right? It's a little, books are a little analog. But I don't know about you, but I grew up in a library. You know, my parents were immigrants, and my father sometimes were just too tired when he came home, and he would just drop me off because that was what he believed that I would, that was the way he believed that I would achieve the American dream, just by reading and learning and bettering myself. And so half the girls we serve are under the poverty line, and they too have parents who often drop them off at the library or centers like this to learn. And we want to reach every single one of them. The other reason why this week is so special is because you joined our board.
Yay!
And it's incredibly exciting because, you know, I would say you can't be what you cannot see. And you are a role model for so many of our girls, so many of them who haven't even met you yet. And as we start this conversation, like, I'd love for you to share a little bit about who you are, your story. And I think the intersection between art, music, and media and technology, which is kind of where you've always been and where you're sitting at. Because I think so many of our girls think they have to choose. Like, I love to dance, but I love to code. Do I got to pick one? And I think you're such an embodiment that you don't have to pick one.
Right.
And
Well,
so,
I want everything. All of it at the same time right now. It's the way I live my life. But I think before I even answer that question, you know, I'm a super emotional person anyway, so I'm having a hard time just controlling myself sitting in the seat because I just want to basically sit in your lap and just, you know what I mean? Because I love you so much. And I just think that what you are doing is so inspiring, you know, because to think that you can have an idea to change the world, which is what a lot of us want to do, right? You want to change the world, you want to have impact, but you're really doing that. You know, and it touched me when you just said that, you know, it bothers you when you turn away girls. And I can understand that. But to me, it's like the one girl that you even affected has changed the world. And so the thousands that you have done that for is incredible. So first, amazing work. And I'm so inspired by you. Yes, she deserves that. And then also, you just mentioned about, by the way, plug real quick, okay? I have a book, and she signed it, okay? Sure, you better believe my 8-year-old's gonna be reading that tonight. I don't care what time I get home, okay? She's gonna, girl, you better open that book and read it. So thank you. So get yours. But I think this is interesting about having immigrant parents because I talk a lot about mine. Yeah. I make fun of them. I think if I was like a stand-up comedian, they'd be really embarrassed because I would do their accents and I would make fun of them and the whole thing. But I am so, again, also inspired by their hustle. Yep. You know, and their refusal to accept what the statistics would have said was their destiny. Yep. You know, that to me, that is one of the reasons why I believe so fully that we really can achieve. That when people say, well, the percentages are against you, and, you know, there hasn't been one before. I'm like, and? You know, because I know what it's like to have to look at something and say, I don't see another example, but I'm going to do it because I believe it's possible. Yeah. You know, and that is one of the reasons why, you know, we talk about being what others can see, because if you don't have that and you're not able to see it and therefore can't achieve it, well, maybe I can see it and therefore I did it. So I want you to be able to see me. Right. You know, and so being visible is really, really important. And for me, throughout my career, yes, I have found a great intersection, between what could be seen as sort of like pop culture and maybe superficial to some, but it certainly is what has influenced a whole lot in our culture. I mean, I think we see it today. Regardless of where you sit politically, that pop culture influenced our election. It influences the decisions that are made, both in business. It can hurt business, as I sit here today, knowing that can happen. And I don't think that it's something that we should shun, especially when we're trying to talk about, anything else in pop culture. Yep. Oh, and tech is pop culture too. And that's why I find it so funny when people ask, well, how did you get into this? And I'm like, well, how could I stay out of it?
Right.
Because you open up the home screen of your phone and what is sitting there? Yeah. You have a whole bunch of apps that have, entertainment focuses and travel focuses and books and news and fashion and shopping and so many other things. We're living in a world where there are no silos. All of these things are attached in some way. And so how can we draw those things together and make sure that they're part of the same conversation?
Yeah. No, I think that's powerful. I mean, I think the point on immigrant parents is so huge. Like when I grew up, my father would say to me, you have three choices. You can be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer, right? Everyone's like shaking their hand.
I say this, right.
Right. That you had three choices. Three because he wanted me to help him pay the mortgage, right? Maybe get a house of my own, a dog, have a nice family. Right. And the thing is, we don't have conversations with our young folks right now. In fact, some of us pretend that we're bringing coal jobs back. You know what I'm talking about? And the thing is there's 500,000 open jobs in computing, and there's only 40,000 people last year that graduated in computer science. One of the most powerful things about Girls Who Code is that if you walk into any of our classrooms, at a time where our classrooms are so segregated, they look like American classrooms should. There's a Latina girl sitting next to a black girl, sitting next to a girl who wears a hijab. There's a girl who in the morning left a homeless shelter to walk 10 blocks across the street in New York City to go learn how to code, sitting next to someone whose parents paid $20,000 for private school education since the time she was 3 years old. But the thing is that we have done such a disservice as a country in teaching our young people to prepare them for these jobs that both of those girls are equally competitive to get a job at Uber when they leave. And so the opportunity for teaching kids to code in terms of closing the opportunity gap, right, is so powerful because I don't know if you feel this way. Like I often wonder, when my parents came to this country, $10 in their pockets, didn't speak the language. My father had to change his name to get a job. But still, 40 years later, we're here. Right. And you wonder with so many families today whether that's possible. And I think that's why I get up and work, is because I do believe that tech jobs are the jobs of the future. And we can close the opportunity job gap if we get this incredible skill set in their hands as fast as we can.
Yeah. Well, I selfishly, I'm going to turn it back to you because I really actually do want to know how you started this. And I'm sure there are many people here who want to understand that because I see the product of your work now, which inspires me. But at what point did you wake up and say, this is what I want to do and I'm going to do it this way? Or did that happen? Yeah. Or was it something else? Like how did that, and what were you doing at the time when you decided this was going to
So I am like a weird person to start an organization called Girls Who Code because I'm not a coder, right? I was a lawyer. Graduated
So you're not an engineer.
No, I'm not an engineer. You're not either. Isn't that funny?
But you're a lawyer though, so you kind of fulfilled it for your parents. Mine are sorely disappointed. It's okay.
They're still trying to get you, right?
Oh no, I'm gonna tell you a story in a minute. Okay. Anyway, go ahead, please.
But I started my organization. I started this organization through failure. I woke up at age 33, $300,000 in student loan debt, hating my job. I was working in finance, literally watching people like my parents lose their homes and thinking, how the hell did I get here? And I saw my mentor, Hillary Clinton, give her first concession speech. And she had this line where she said, just because I failed doesn't mean you shouldn't try too. And I literally felt like she was speaking to me. So I walked into my boss's office and I quit. And at age 33, I decided to run for United States Congress in a New York City Democratic primary against someone who had been there for 18 years because I thought that was a great idea. And I got my butt kicked but it was the best 10 months of my life because it made me fearless. Like I lost, but I didn't die. I was humiliated, but I didn't fall on the floor, right? And it led me, because when you run for office, you end up going into a lot of schools. And so I'd go into schools in New York where, you know, their robotics classes or their computer science classes, and I just saw hundreds of boys. Or I'd go to schools, you know, where there were 500 kids in the basement of a church learning, you know, Microsoft Word on one computer. And I realized that I lost, but I don't want to give up on these girls. And so that's what led me to start Girls Who Code. And I had an idea. I was like, I'm a marketer like you. I was like, Girls Who Code, that's a hot name.
It is a hot name.
Went on
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good job.
Bought it for $1.99 on GoDaddy.
Okay,
I know.
There you
See,
go.
now you got to really congratulate me.
It's amazing and efficient. High five. Good job.
But yeah, that's how we started.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? It's so interesting because the thought that, you know, failure helped you get to this point, we should underline that.
Yeah.
You know, because I think so many of us are afraid of failure, especially when you're afraid that you're going to disappoint either your parents, you know, your family, your friends, you know, because obviously we all have dreams and aspirations, and a lot of what holds us back is that fear of the failure.
So how did you learn how to be fearless? Because you're fearless too.
Girl, well, let me tell you something.
And you had to tell me that other story about your dad.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Because African parents, okay? Because they'll be the first ones to talk about you, okay? And then you're like, oh, but I'm not so bad. Okay. But no, it's so funny. The point is that last summer, when I was at Apple, which, by the way, I saw some Apple colleagues here. So hello. I mean, you guys, you supported. How nice. So I presented at WWDC the new UI for Apple Music, which I was working on at the time. And, you know, to my surprise, actually, because I'll be super candid with you, it made a splash. I really had no idea that was going to happen. I was like, wait, what? You know, like, literally it was like an hour later and it was like, you know, Twitter was blowing up and there were, you know, all kind of press stories and she's so cool. And I was like, really? Because you could see this on Tuesday in my office. You know, like I was like, why is this so shocking? In any case, my dad called me because, yes, I didn't, you know, even though I did apply and got into medical school, I never went. I wasn't a lawyer. My sister is, though. And I'm clearly not an engineer. And all along throughout my career, you know, my parents were kind of like, okay, yeah, tell me again what you do. You know, how does this work? I'm not quite sure. But it seems like you're doing all right, you know? So I got a call from my dad, like, later that night. Because obviously he'd been watching, you know, sort of these news reports. And so he's just like, hey, so you are good at this thing, eh? I was like, Dad, yes, I'm really good. You know, and he's like, hey, this is successful. Okay, you're going to do this. I was like, yes, I am. Okay. 20 years later, but thank you. But
yeah, I gotta meet my dad,
right? But that's part of the fearlessness, which is that I lost that fear early.
Yeah, because they never. I mean, I've lost 2 races. After each one, my father sends me an email being like, "Here are the 20 things you should have done differently. No care package, right? Nothing, you know.
No Kleenex to blow your nose.
But don't you feel it? But in some ways, I feel like maybe that's what drives us.
Yeah.
And I think that is the gift of immigrant parents, is there that tough love of wanting their affirmation in many ways.
But also, I think what you said is really important. Like, you fell down, or you failed but didn't fall down. Is actually what you said, which I think is such a beautiful thing, because that's what happens. It's like, we shouldn't be afraid of failure. Actually, I just thought, I was thinking this the other day, because yes, the job I'm in now is very challenging, right? There are lots of people who are like, ooh, danger, danger, be careful, you know? Right. But the truth of the matter is that I have failed before, and I'm still sitting here, you know?
Yeah, it didn't break you.
It sure did. Girl, it did not break me, okay? And additionally, there are so many lessons that you learn from those failures. And the other beauty of having survived failure is that you almost start to miss it, because you're feeling like, you know what, if I'm not stepping in something, I haven't pushed far enough. Yep. You know? And so you keep pushing until you're like, ooh, I'm afraid I'm about to teeter over. Yeah. And then you know you're doing something right.
And that's what I think is so cool about coding,
Yeah.
right? Because most people think, oh, coding's too hard. You got to be a super genius, like a geek. Like I can't figure it out. And I did talk about this. I also think with our girls, we often coddle our girls. You know, my son's over there in the room, and I always tell a story about like his swimming class, right? When, you know, in swim class, like half boys, half girls. And when the girls are learning how to swim, you know, all the parents are like, it's okay, honey. You don't have to get your face wet. I mean, they're in swim class, right? Don't be scared. And with the boys, my husband included, they're like pushing them into the deep end because they're trying to teach them how to be men, how to be fearless. And I think what we do with our girls is we try to protect and coddle them. And so they don't often get failure, right? They don't get rejection in the same way that men do.
Right.
And so when they taste it and feel it for the first time, it doesn't feel right. And I agree with you. I think that failures is like a muscle that you have to just keep exercising. And I think the cool thing about coding is the whole process is about imperfection.
Yeah.
You got to keep trying that annoying semicolons in the wrong place. You got to do it over and over and over again till you get it right. But then it's like a high because when you get it right, whatever you were trying to build, it comes to life.
Right.
And you want to feel that way almost all the time. It becomes like a failure addiction.
Yeah.
And that's what I think pushes our girls like out of their comfort zone in so many different ways.
What are some of the successes that you see? Like, so if we push our girls, we, you know, push them to this area that, yes, sometimes they're not getting the right support for, they're not getting the right advice to move into. Perhaps their parents are afraid. What are some of the success stories that you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, I think at a baseline, I think our economy has dramatically changed, right? We depend on American women to like put food on the table and to pay the mortgage.
Right.
And we're living at a time right now where less than 18% of those in technology, right, are women. And that means that they're not earning $120,000 as a software programmer, and they're not being able to give their families the type of opportunity that we need them to give. So I think at a baseline, the girls that go through our program and they decide to go into technology, they're going to have a good life economically. They're going to be able to support themselves and their family. You know, they're going to be, I think, in a good place. And I think that is important for our girls, and we don't send that message enough. But secondly, I think that there's something powerful about girls that they want to solve problems. They want to fix things that they see in their life or in their community. You know, I had a girl in our first program, Cora, who was like 5 years old when her daddy got diagnosed with cancer. And it was like when she saw her father for the first time, she said, coming out of the hospital, she said, you know, I'm going to be a doctor because one day I'm going to save my daddy's life. And at Girls Who Code, she learned the connection between medicine and computer science, and she built an algorithm to help detect whether a cancer is benign or malignant.
Oh my gosh.
16 years old.
What?
You know, I had a girl in our Facebook program 2 years ago, Jasmine, lived in Oakland. Every day she'd take, you know, 2 buses, 2 trains, go to Oakland to Menlo Park to learn how to code. Latina, had never met anybody who was Latina that worked in technology. And at Girls Who Code, what we do is the last 2 weeks you can build whatever you want. So Jasmine built this app called Wacky Words so that you could learn SAT words. Because too many people in her community in Oakland, they wanted to go to college, but they couldn't afford like fancy SAT classes and those tutors. And so, you know, she didn't build something for herself, but she built something for others. I could like sit here with you like for hours and tell you these stories of girls from Newark, LA, Boston, you know what I mean? Akron. Wherever I go, they want to make the world better. And so I feel like there's so many things that are sitting on the sidelines because we're not solving this problem fast enough and as fast as we could. And that's what we have to, that's why it's so important because girls are change makers.
I mean, yes.
They are just change makers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We should just pause there. Right? I mean, because girls are change makers. Yes.
Girls are change makers.
Amazing. Well, and that's why I think it's so funny when the announcement went out about this event, and you know we have influence in big audiences to talk to, and I wanted to talk about it, and literally as I was like, okay, I have 3 minutes to write this tweet before I got to go to this meeting, and I was like, who should come to this thing or who should know about this thing? So I started with like, if you're a girl, Then I was like, right. Okay, so we just don't want girls there. Okay, if you're a girl, if you know a girl, if you love a girl, if you're empowered by a girl, if a girl empowers you, if a girl loves you, if you're not a girl, you should come.
Yeah.
Because the truth of the matter is that, we should all be allies and supporters of this mission.
Yeah.
Because girls are change agents and change makers. And quite frankly, if you're not a girl and you don't know how to code, you should still be supporting this.
Right.
Because it is going to change the world.
Yeah.
And so for me, when yes, I'm not a coder. I was a girl once. I'm a woman now. But the point is, what y'all didn't notice? But my point is that, the ally is as important as the visual representation of the end product, right? Because even though we are working towards a scenario where Jasmine will see somebody like her, or she will be that somebody for somebody else, we need all of the allies to say, yes, go that way, do that, and figure out a way to support it.
Yeah. And especially the men. Like I was saying all day I've been getting pictures of girls that are reading our books. And so many of them have come from dads. And it's so powerful to see all these amazing men who want a different reality. They're like our fathers, right? They want a different reality for their daughters. And they recognize that there are opportunities that they're not getting, that they should get. And they're going to fight for them. That's why it's like people always, after the election, I'm sure, I'm in San Francisco, so I can say this, right? I'm sure a lot of us were bummed, and right, exactly. Understatement of the year. But and the first thing I thought was, I'm not going to see a female president in my lifetime. And I couldn't, devastated. But then as I picked myself up, I was like, no, we're going to be all right. And I'm going to double down on my work, and you're going to double down on your work, and you're going to double down on your work. And the future is ours. But I do think that this mission, which is why it's interesting that I think both of us with our backgrounds, not coming from this industry, from professional experience, have ended up here doing this work as our life mission now, because I think that it's so important to getting to where I think all of us want to get to as feminists. A world which our girls believe that they can be anything and everything.
Yeah. And representation matters. It really does matter. Not just the support, but throwing yourself into that middle. Because again, I think that sometimes fear can keep us from, really saying and acting in a way that's going to empower somebody else. If you can't do it, empower somebody else to do it. That's the way I feel. It's like sometimes we get so afraid of the thing that we don't know. That we don't know how to support somebody else to go and get that thing for us.
Yeah.
And if we only did that, we would see such a turnaround in so many industries and so many businesses. And then, of course, in the larger world, because if you can help empower, then somebody else is going to go do it. And that's okay.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about your experience at Uber right now and what your goals are, what you're going to do, how you're going to save them.
Correct. So my experiences thus far, you know what? I appreciate the fact that you said, women are change makers, because I do firmly believe that. Oftentimes we do see solutions in areas where other people are like, danger, danger, no, don't go. Because there is a fearlessness and sort of a problem solving that is natural to us. And I'm making generalizations, of course, but that is certainly true for me. And I think to this point, it's funny that we're, or really quite wonderful that we're talking about this, because it's actually is part of the reason why I even decided to take the job, right? Which is that, so many of us can sit on the sidelines and point and say, that is wrong, that is bad, that's terrible, somebody should fix that. Well, who's going? Right. Who's going to go fix it?
Right.
If you have the capability to do it, then you go. And then I turned to myself and I was like, well, then you go. And that's the truth, because, if we want to help instill some change, and we want to create a future where my 8-year-old won't face these types of things, then who's going to go do it? I have to go do it. And there's a fearlessness in that because, first of all, I do have great hopes. I believe in us. I believe in humanity. I believe in our creativity. I believe in our vision. And I do think that what has been incepted by Uber is a great change for the world, and that it's going to create positive things for us. It's already doing that. I know that personally. And so how can we then better change the culture and also empower people so that we can create an environment where we all feel great and we can do our work and be appreciated for it? And so if I can help do that, then that's what I want to do.
Yeah, that's powerful. I know, we still got 5 minutes of your time, and then you got to run out. Yes. This amazing woman, gets on a plane Tuesday morning?
Yeah.
And leaves Thursday.
Yeah.
So she needs to go see her incredible 8-year-old, Lael, right?
Yes.
So there's a lot of parents in the room, and I'm sure a lot of people came today because we want to talk about how we get our kids to code and learn to code. So what are your tactics besides, I know, having them read these books and give you a book report by tomorrow at 5?
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Because I learned that from my parents also. It's like, read this book in 3 minutes and give me a book report.
Me too. What are up with the immigrant book reports?
With the book reports. I don't understand.
Reports, right.
It's okay, but I still
We'll be doing
do
the same thing.
That's what I was about to say. I was like, it worked, so that's why you do it. It does.
It totally works.
It works. Yeah, but the tactics are that, which is, it's that there is an opportunity to see what you're doing, to utilize the resources that are at hand, to engage with the community, because right now we do actually have so many resources to connect, that I do want to make sure that there's a way to instill that curiosity, so that there are options. I was talking to somebody recently about joining this board, and they said, well, what is your daughter going to do? And I was like, well, I mean, she's in, swimming. She's got gymnastics. She did tennis this summer. You better believe she's about to start coding. You know what I mean? Like, what? She got time for something else? No, she doesn't. But the truth of the matter is that I feel the responsibility of giving options, right? So that whether she falls in love or not is not the question for me right now. It's that she needs to be able to know that there's an option.
Yeah.
And so that alone, first of all, I'm looking at you, and I'm like, okay, so you tell me what to do, because I want to give her the option. And I'm sure for other parents in here, or for those who know a girl, you don't have to be a parent in order to empower another girl. How do we do that? How do we enroll? How do we get connected? Yeah. Because I actually need some tips as well. I'm going to give her the book. And by the way, you'll read the book report when she's done.
Send it to me. Okay. I'll grade it.
I will. Okay.
I think, it's funny that you have a daughter and I have a son. And when I found out I was having a boy, I started crying. It was so off-brand. That's fine. Sean, you did not hear that.
Oh my God, that is the best.
But they always say, God gives you what you need, right? Yeah. And so it's funny because I see the world in like a different way. But one of the things that I see is, if you meet my son, not today because audience and Nahal did a good job, but he's often like, got a booger in his nose. You know what I mean? Like yesterday's shirt, and he's a mess, right? Because I'm busy. But when I meet his friends who are girls, it's like, the perfect bow and the straightened shirt and the skirt. And imagine from the time, if you're 12 months old, to the time you're 16, if you've been, fixed and picked, and, you don't feel liberated. And so I think so much what we need to do with our girls is just let them be. Ooh. Let them be messy, let them be dirty, let them be whoever they are. And we need to get them to tinker and to take things apart. Often in my house, if the toilet was broke, like my dad didn't bring me along to fix it. Like if your toilet's broken, tell your daughter to go fix it. Put a drill in her hand at 12 years old. Like, have her build and create. Don't keep picking and fixing and prodding and pulling, and because those micro acts have huge effects on us, right? We got to liberate our girls.
Amazing. That's amazing. I love that message. I really do. she's going to do it in a pair of heels as well, because I feel like, my brand needs to remain. Okay? Yours may be off brand, but I got to have her represent mine. So I love you, but I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
No, you're not.
No, I'm not, actually. I'm not. You're right. It's all good. It's fine. It's fine. We'll break that. We'll do that next session. We'll work through those issues.
Okay, I want to give her a big round of applause. I know you're going to catch a
Thank
flight.
you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Okay.
I'm going to stay and take some questions, and we will do a photo for this amazing woman.
A quick photo. And then.
Where I look like I'm 4'11".
Thank you so much, Boz. So we're going to take some questions from you. If you want to just raise your hand, and we'll come to you with a mic, and just wait till we come to you, because we are recording this, and we want everyone on the air to hear your question. Any questions? Over here.
Hi, my name's Zaina. I'm currently a student at City College of San Francisco. I actually did the program in 2015. I just wanted to say it changed my life. I have parents who don't come from tech. I grew up in San Francisco, and I've just seen now the tech boom, and it's really what made me come into tech. And I was just wondering, I have, Bose was saying, I have an 8-year-old cousin, and I was wondering, is there any plan on expansion into elementary schools, for example?
Yeah. It's a great question. So I'm waiting for someone to give me like $10 million in my PayPal account. We started with high school girls and, went down to middle school because I want to make sure that I'm staying with you, right? Like you graduated, we're with you. You need an internship, you email us, right? You are part of a family. And I know that by the time I can give you enough services, I can drop you off at college. And so I need to be able to do that for our girls. And that's why, we've gone as young as I think the resources that we have to go. And so the way that I felt like we could reach even younger girls were through these books. Just to give them enough that by the time they got to middle school, they could be in a Girls Who Code club. But listen, I would love to start as young as we possibly can. I tell parents all the time, start by age 5 or 6. It's really, really, really important. But thank you for being a girl who codes and for being part of our program. Thank you.
Next question up here in the front.
Hi, thank you for doing this event, by the way. Learned a lot in the 30, 40 minutes that we've done it. But what are some things that men can do to be allies, not only in this mission of girls coding, but
generally?
Generally, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a couple months ago, I went to the Rochester Institute of Technology, which is a big tech school, right? Oh, really? And I met with the Women in Computing group. And I go into the conference room, and there's these 3 dudes sitting here. And I'm like, who are you? And they're like, we're in the men who are helping the Women in Computing group. Literally. And I'm not joking. These guys, they're the ones in the classroom when the professors are not calling on the young women, they say something. Their job is to support and advocate for these women. And they're going to do that when they get into tech companies. I often wonder, how many men in this room have probably heard someone say something that's inappropriate about a woman and not felt, all of you, how many of you, and you don't have to raise your hands, but I'm sure a lot of you didn't feel, even if it offended you, you may not have said something, right? Because that's not in our culture. That has to change, right? Because we can't constantly be the only ones when something is said that's offensive that says, hey, wait a minute. When men start speaking up and speaking out against things that they are equally offended by, I think that's when things will start to really change. Clearly in the Valley, the culture is broken. And until we flood the gates with women, which I am working hard every single day to do, that is going to continue. And it's going to continue to be oftentimes hostile for women to work in until men who disagree and who also feel like it's inappropriate stand up and speak out. And I think we need to do more work on giving you guys the tools to figure out how to do that.
I just wanted to offer a data point because I worked in Silicon Valley for 30 years and about 6 startups starting in 1983. And I think there's a mythology which has created some of the hostility that you're speaking of. It's just simply not true that there haven't been a lot of very influential women in many, many jobs that I worked, whether it was coders or project managers or tech writers or many other functions. Women, they were colleagues, they were friends. You know, it's not as monolithic as people who would like to keep women out try to present it to be. You know, I worked at Sun Microsystems, for instance. You know, starting in 1993, we developed a lot of, internet software, Java, lots of things. You know, not only in the United States, but in Korea, at Samsung, Hyundai, many other places. In India, there were women engineers and women managers too.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to conclude by saying I think what has happened is that there's been some of the hostility. You know, the exposure of the reality will, I think, hopefully change some of the situation.
I mean, it's an interesting point. I think the thing that has happened, though, because you're talking about your experience in the early 90s, right? And I think what's happened, though, if you look at the numbers, so essentially in the 1980s, about 37% of computer science graduates were women. And today that number's less than 18%. It's the only industry, I'm talking like manufacturing, welding, where you've had this kind of decline of women at a time where technology is a part of every single thing that we do. And a cynic would tell you that Rebecca Tracer actually just wrote an amazing article a week ago that you should all read, that there's data that shows, and this is in like basket weaving, that as an industry becomes more powerful, as you make more money, we push women out. So in the 90s and 2000, when the personal computer came out, when tech became more and more and more lucrative, you started seeing fewer and fewer and fewer women. And there's a lot of data to kind of potentially back up that theory. But it is true that, you know, only 1 out of 5 of technologists today are women. And it's as low as it's ever been. And so, and I think the faith that I have is that I think that can be reversed. You know, Girls Who Code alone is going to put 10,000 new graduates in computer science in 2018. Like, we're on our way to hundreds of thousands. And so, and 90% of our girls who go through our program want to then major and minor in computer science. So it's not about aptitude. It's simply about fighting a culture, right, that has not looked like them. And I think we can fight that culture. And I think we have amazing men and women in this room who are ready to do battle on that for our girls.
Hi, my name is Sina. I work for Visa. Started as an engineer from the beginning. I worked in that for a long time, and now work for product. So it's equally exciting, both worlds. One thing I wanted to ask, I have 2 girls, and I always encourage them to do mathematics and computer science. And one girl picked it up, the other one did not, and it's okay. It's her personal choice. What I've seen the transition in her is she was fine in middle school. She loved math. She learned computer science. She was in a private school. All that was good. She moved to public school, and then she felt like, this is more of a geeky world. I don't want to wear jeans and take a backpack and wear a T-shirt and go to school. And there's a debate club over there. Everybody's wearing skirts and heels, and it's so nice. I love it. And she liked debating. I mean, that's all fine. But I felt like there is a fashion culture aspect as well. And I was so glad to see Hillary saying that pantsuit culture, right? I loved it. I mean, every time I try to go for a conference, I'm like, should I wear skirt or pants? And I was I'm always comfortable wearing pants. And I felt so comfortable from then on wearing it. and giving me assurance that it's okay to wear pants and it's okay not to wear heels, right? So how do you, what's your thought on that? I mean, I think there is an influence of some sort, which I have seen in my own life, with my girl. I mean, how do you change it? I mean, there is a different culture in technology for sure. I have been in that world for so long. Being in a room of 30 architects and being only one woman who is talking tech, right? And I have felt it always. So I think it's very important to give the assurance to girls that it's okay to wear a T-shirt and a backpack and your sneakers and go do your work.
Or it's okay to wear a dress and heels and do your work. Yeah, I think it's more about listen, I think that middle school girls there's a reason why middle school girls love math and science and then there's a drop off in high school, right? Because that's when pop culture and being cool or not cool, and what's interesting is that teenage girls decide in this country what's cool and what's not cool. They're deciding it's not cool. It's not like they're going into the computer labs and the boys are like, get out of here. It's a very different phenomenon. And I think culture plays a huge role. There was literally a Barbie doll that said, I hate math, let's go shopping instead. You can walk into Forever 21 and buy a t-shirt that says I'm allergic to algebra. I talk to, women all the time and I said, how many of you have ever said, I hate math? Raise your hands, right? You'd probably feel comfortable walking to a dinner party and being like, not that great with numbers, right? Or even in an interview being like, not that good about math. But you'd never walk into a dinner party and be like, just so you know, I can't write, or I can't read that well. We live in a culture where it's almost, think about Mean Girls, which I totally watch on repeat, right? Where she has that scene where she wants the guy to like her and she crosses off the A in her math test and puts a D. It is sexy, appealing, cool to not be good at math, to not like math. And if we were to be honest with ourselves, we often let our girls have that narrative. I was literally in an airport in Burma and I was watching this European couple, and this little girl was playing a math game. And she was like, Mommy, will you help me? And the mom was like, oh, honey, I'm not good at math. Ask Daddy to help you. Immediately, those words send signals to our girls that it's okay that you don't like it and it's not cool. So I think that we have to make it interesting and make it cool and meet girls where they're at. And I think that's one of the things I'm like, girls who code is cool. Girls think girls who code is cool. And, I think that but by doing that, we've met girls where they're at. We have cheerleaders, we have geeky girls, we have, whatever they want to be, they are part of our sisterhood. And I think it's with that, openness. And I think, honestly, from a I spend a lot of time stalking Shonda Rhimes, all the time. I'm generally a big stalker and shameless generally, so that, it works. But I really do feel like if Disney would do the next character on a cool girl coder and Shonda would write her next scandal about a girl, we could wrap this up and go home tomorrow. It would be done. We wouldn't need to do anything else. And the impact of culture is really important. I decided I wanted to be a lawyer because I saw the movie The Accused. Do you guys remember Kelly McGillis on The Accused? I thought she was awesome and I wanted to be just like her. We forget that in the 1980s, only 15% of doctors and lawyers were women. Today, it's 50%. Why? Because of Grey's Anatomy and LA Law and Ally McBeal. We inundated television and media with cool women who were doctors and lawyers who wore skirts and heels and had their hair blown up and their makeup done to the nines, and little girls said, me too. I can do that. And the opposite thing has happened in technology. I'm on 2 planes and 2 trains a week, and I talk to thousands of people every week, a lot of them girls. And wherever I go, I say, describe to me what a computer scientist looks like. And she describes him to a T. He's white or Asian. He's wearing a hoodie. He smells. He's in a basement. And he's probably drinking a Red Bull. And he has no friends. What girl wants to be that? Much less even be friends with him, right? So we have to change that image. But that means we have to change culture. We have to change television. We have to change media. We have to change magazines. I mean, Silicon Valley on HBO still can't get it together and just put a cool girl, or just put a girl like on the show, you know? And so if we keep, and goes back to my theory, or Rebecca Tracer's theory, that this may be all one big conspiracy. That if we want to, that anytime an industry is powerful, we either subconsciously or intentionally keep women out. And until we change culture, this is not going to change. No matter how many social network movies you make, because that movie did not appeal to one girl. Nobody wants a $1 billion exit. You know, they want to change the world. So we have to talk to girls in a very different way to get them motivated and excited.
Thank you so much for everything. I just wanted to say, when you spoke about allies, I thought about my boyfriend, who is a software engineer, and he's been doing a lot of interviews lately, and I always ask him, like, did you interview a girl today? Did you interview a girl today? And he was just like, you know what? On the docket, there is someone named Carol and someone named Steph. And I was just like, yes, like, tell me about it. I'm so excited. And he comes back to me, and he was like, turns out those are men from Europe. And I was just like, no, are you kidding me? And so my point is, what can companies do, especially not big companies like Google, Facebook, who have diversity leads and have a whole arm in their company to handle this type of stuff? What can startups and smaller companies do to really attract on their job site that women are welcome, that women are perceived just as talented, and we're looking for merit. And if you are amazing, then we want you. What can companies do?
So I think I'm just going to give 3 ideas that I have. One, I think that they have to really look at the interview process. I was speaking at a financial services company to mostly a group of male technologists. Most of them were senior people. They've been interviewing candidates for the past 30 years. And one of the partners he raised his hand. He said, I have a question. When I interview, often the first technical question that I ask is a question about baseball. You think that that's a good idea? I was like, no. That man has been asking baseball questions for 30 years. I'm talking a top tier financial services technology partner, and he didn't know. So we have to really do stock of what we're doing in the interview process. Because there is, and I've been dying for tech companies to do this, but there is a difference between what their technical internship programs look like in terms of diversity and their full-time offers. So something is happening, and they're all not deciding to go work at Facebook. So there needs to be a real review on that. I think the second thing is I have girls all the time in my program who got into Stanford or got into MIT or got into Carnegie Mellon, and they don't want to take on the student loan debt. So they're going to CUNY, or they're going to UCLA, or they're going to a state school. And the problem is the top 8 firms basically recruit from the top 8 schools. And they miss out on a whole lot of talented women and people of color. So I think startups should get real smart and start recruiting at those schools. And they're going to find really talented people there. It's just not true that they're not there. Like, I'm just, I'm the first one to say we need to build a pipeline, but like the numbers should look a lot better, quite frankly, than they do look. And I think the third thing is, because I also think the thing is that almost half of the women will leave within the first 3 years. And we really need to ask ourselves why and start making changes. And I think one of the things that a lot of companies do wrong is, like, let's just say there's 10 engineers and they have 2 women. They'll split up the women. They should put them on the same team. Because I think community is very important. One of the most powerful things we do at Girls Who Code is we share information, and we have community, and we support one another, and we lift each other up. If you don't have community and you're the only one, you're not going to last.
We have time for one more question, which we're going to take here. And then I just want to remind everybody we're having a book signing right in the back immediately following the program.
Oh, okay, perfect. Hi, my name's Erica. Thanks so much for coming tonight. It's really nice to meet you. I recently moved to California from New York, but I'm not a big city girl at all. I actually grew up in a small town in Ohio in the Midwest. And to be perfectly honest with you, I had parents who were public educators and nurses and were not business people or tech people at all. And I'm really new to the whole tech world, even moving to California. And I think a lot about girls I grew up with in Ohio in this small town that, quite frankly, they're smart, but they don't have any exposure to this world. And so I think it's really important to have books, and we need to change pop culture, but what are actions that we can all take to reach girls outside of big cities where they do have more visibility to events like this and more access to companies and things like that?
So I just did I spent the first 3 months of last year on the road for Hillary. 30 cities, every town you can imagine. And, when Election Day happened, I was like, I missed it. We've reached 40,000 girls. A significant amount of girls live in Carrollton, Ohio, right? Probably where you grew up, rural areas. And one of our Girls Who Code clubs is in a place called Carrollton, Ohio. So that place has been decimated by the heroin epidemic, right? No Wi-Fi in the homes, no Wi-Fi in the schools. Most of the community's jobs have been automated. And what I found in that town was that 40 girls would meet twice a week in the Carrollton County Library, because that was the only place in town that had Wi-Fi, and they learned how to code. And Courtney's father drives an oil rig 7 days a week, has full custody of his daughter. And he was like, I'm going to do everything to make sure that my daughter has a chances that I didn't have. So I see a lot of hope and will in a lot of these communities. And they get it. It may not be about gender equity, but it's about like American opportunity. And so we do a lot to reach Courtney and girls like her. I'm not forgetting them.
Well, that is a beautiful way to end the evening. Thank you all for coming, and especially to Reshma for coming.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.